It has been a while since we've last done a podcast, but we are back for the season review, Unbiased Formula One podcast. I'm joined by Johnny. We are both in Tier 4 in the UK, and we're going to talk through the 2020 season. Johnny, how are you, my friend?
I'm very good. First and foremost, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year. I mean, it's not New Year yet, but, Happy New Year for what it is. I'm happy to be back. I'm very happy to be doing another one last season review.
It's been a long time, and we apologise. We've just been super busy with literally everything under the sun, but we're back for a season review. This season, in my opinion, was one of the best seasons of F1 in the last 6-7 years, and we're going to go through and pick out our favourite bits, what we liked, what we didn't like, and everything in between. I just want to say, before we get started, I would probably rate this season an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10.
Oh, I'd give it a solid 9, yeah. I think for some of the things that happened, for the circumstances around it as well, for what this year's been, for how quickly it all happened as well, how condensed it was meant to be, I don't know how it was, a 9 is, it's a solid grade.
And firstly, it's quite amazing that we actually had a season in the end. When you think back to March, the second or third week in March, when we were all going to Melbourne, the cars were there, the drivers, fans turning up, and then COVID was sort of spiking up. No one really sort of understood it, and the weekend was cancelled on the Friday morning, I think, of the weekend. So we've come such a long way, and to cram, what was it, 17 seasons in? Oh, sorry, 17 seasons, 17 races in this season.
Wow.
Feels like 17 seasons. It's quite remarkable that we got that many races.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was that first year when it happened in Australia. I feel like you can kind of, for me at least, I correspond that with when we all really started taking COVID seriously, because it was one of the first sporting events that just suddenly cancelled everything. Because we weren't, like you said, we weren't really sure of what it was. But then we're suddenly at the race, ready for it, pumped for the new season, and then just suddenly having to be like, oh, there's an outbreak in, what was it, McLaren or something, the McLaren garage, and then it's just shut everything down. It's like, what? You could do that? Like, I didn't think that could happen.
Yeah, it's remarkable to think that how far the world has developed in terms of COVID since, how long ago was that? 9 months ago. It's crazy. What was the thing that you liked the most about this season? There was many things. Anything particularly that you specifically liked a lot about the 2020 season?
I think it was just the fact that, like, even going into it, I think that we would known that it was going to be a pretty unpredictable season. Like, we didn't even know at points how many races it was going to be. In fact, at any point we didn't really know until they finally properly announced that there was going to be the last 3 races outside of Europe, because for the most part it was just all Europe until the last 3 races. And so it's just like that unpredictability of how long the season's going to be, where they're going to be going, and just how many races there were going to be. Like, we had, 2 triple headers or something. It was just a crazy season.
It was a logistical challenge as well to get everything and everybody in place, and especially with the COVID testing regime. When they first started testing everybody, I remember Perez put a video up of him having the COVID test, and that was the first time that I'd ever seen somebody have a COVID test, and it looked absolutely horrible. It was honestly one of the worst things that I've seen, but now it's just like second nature to people.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because on paper this season was a dominant one for Lewis Hamilton. If you just look at the stats and the points scored, it looks like he just romped home with it. But it wasn't so easy for him, was it?
I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, when you look on I've got Wikipedia up right now, and all it is literally just him, just a bunch of first and then fastest lap and pole positions. But when we're actually there watching them, it didn't really feel so straightforward for him. It felt not too much like he had a lot of competition, but it was just, I don't know. It just never felt like he was just gone. It felt like it was still anyone's race at any point, or anyone's season, because it could just be like he had in Sakir, is how you say it? Yeah.
Sakir, yeah.
Yeah, like where he just came back positive, so he couldn't race. It felt like that could happen to anyone at any point, like it did with Perez earlier on. And it was like, just because he's out ahead now doesn't mean that he can't. Like, if that had happened earlier on, and he tested positive when it was a triple header, that's a lot of points that he would have lost.
That's if Bottas would have actually won the races that he would have missed. That's a whole nother question, whether he would have done that.
He wouldn't have. Saying that now, he wouldn't have.
That's a surprise to hear from you.
I do not like Bottas.
If you're new to the show, then you're missing out. There's a lot of prejudice from that side of the podcast. I think I'm fairly neutral. I want to see Gasly do well. That's about it.
You can have guys that you want to see do well, and guys that you don't. But I am shameless with mine. I do not like Bottas, and I don't like Albon. I make that very clear, and I always will do.
Welcome to the Unbiased podcast. I have to say, this year as well, the new circuits really were quite surprising, and it was a little disappointing to see 2021 calendar when it got released, because it was not really the tracks that we wanted. We had Portimao, we had Imola making a return, first time since 2005-6, I want to say, and we had the Tuscan GP. We had so many different circuits. The Nürburgring. It was actually really, really good, because the teams didn't have a lot of data for these new circuits. I think it was it Portimao that was the first time that F1 had ever been there or raced there.
Was it that? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Because then that's normally a MotoGP circuit. So that was people were questioning whether the cars would actually be safe, because that was the one with the most elevation changes, I think, wasn't it? In the first and second sector.
I'm trying to remember the races.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, we were trying to think beforehand as well. Before this, we were trying to get ready for it, trying to think of each race, and
it was that one where Perez led. He overtook Hamilton and Bottas, where it was wet, dry at the start. That was a while ago.
It was a while ago.
Anyway, I really like the new circuits. I thought as well. It was nice to see Nürburgring come back. That's one of my favourite circuits.
Yeah, that was good to come back.
It's a shame. I know there's one race to be confirmed actually on next year's calendar. I'm hoping it's going to be one of the circuits that we had last year, if not like a Hockenheim or a circuit like that.
I'm trying to looking at it now. It's in between China and Spain, which is usually they're like, it's them two. It goes China then Spain, but so I don't know. It could literally be anything then.
China and Spain, two races that usually don't live long in the memory.
Yeah, just dead. Like China, that's just a dead circuit, and in Spain it's just so straightforward for the drivers. That's where they test. They've been testing all over all winter there, and it's just boring. It's just a boring race. Get rid of it.
Yes, because they know it inside out. They know that not only do the drivers know it, but the teams know exactly what they need, how like tyres and fuel and everything. It's just predictable, so you know Mercedes are going to win. Although saying that, with China, I'm pretty sure China 2018 was an absolutely amazing race, because I remember watching it. I was in the car on my way to Brands Hatch in the morning, and I remember getting so hyped because Ricciardo dive bombed Bottas. That was one of the best overtakes I'd ever seen, and he just sent it from nowhere, and he was like 6th or 7th at the start, and he comes to the field to win. That was a crazy race. And then that one, Verstappen hit Vettel. Another moment of Verstappen hitting Vettel before he matured.
Oh yeah, and then that was the start of Vettel spinning everywhere, wasn't it? As well, that was that wasn't his fault, but no,
that was one of the Vettel. That was when we had 3 teams fighting for the championship. Good times, right?
Oh, very good times.
Let's not get bogged down with previous years being better than this one.
Yeah, this one's a bit too good anyway. I don't want to think of, especially last season. I wasn't keen on last season.
Last season was a funny one because we had so much. There was Ferrari was still there, Red Bull was still there, and Vettel won, Leclerc won, Bottas, Hamilton won, Verstappen won. It was on paper, it had a lot of elements to a good season.
But I just didn't it had those elements, and it had different winners, and like you said, Ferrari were there, which was obviously the big surprise I think of this year of how bad Ferrari were, but. It was one of those ones that it really did feel like, as much as, again, unbiased as we are, and as unbiased I am, I love Lewis Hamilton. It just felt like it was always going to be his season again.
It was difficult. I watched a video actually. F1 put a video on their YouTube channel of the drivers reacting to their 2020 predictions, and so many drivers went so safe. They're like, "Yeah, Lewis is to win the 7th," and I was like, "Come on, you've got to spice it up. You can't just predict that. Obviously, that was going to happen."
Yeah.
I'd have to say I feel like I've said I have to say about 1,000,000 times in this. I don't know why I've said that.
That's your catchphrase. Like mine is screw Albon or something. Yours is I have to say.
I have to say. I'm trying to think of you've put under likes in our little document we're semi-reading from the favourite moment of the season. I'm trying to think. I've so many good moments, but I reckon Perez's first win has got to be top one for me. That's
definitely what I was thinking of when I wrote that. It was Perez's win. Gasly's win as well was pretty big.
That was amazing.
Danny Rick, just his podiums as well. Just those for me. Just were like I love Danny Rick as well. I've been saying for years that Renault was going to be a good move. I thought if it had worked out better, I think Renault he would have been in position. I always said when the rule changes came in, Renault would be in the best position to have the best car and go for the title, and that's why he moved there. And I feel like it might still happen for Renault, but they don't have the drivers now, or it might be for McLaren as well. But yeah, just Danny Rick deserves to be. He deserves to get some podiums because he is one of the top drivers on the grid, and he's shown it this year.
Multiple times. How many podiums do you get? 2 podiums, I think he got this year, didn't he? Ocon got a podium as well. I think Renault made some massive steps forward this year.
Oh, yeah, Ocon with that second place actually. Yeah, that was big.
It's a shame the rule change has got pushed back. The whole car overhaul and regulation change has been pushed back to 2022 because of the pandemic. Because that would have been this coming month or next month, the rule changes. But yeah, I think Renault actually changing the name, aren't they, to Alpine F1 team.
Alpine,
I think they're going to go for the Colgate livery, the red, white and blue. I'm pretty sure.
I kind of hope they just go with like a predominantly just like the proper that blue, just the mainly blue, maybe going back to the old Renault, blue and yellow.
Blue and yellow. That was amazing livery.
The Alonso Renault, as we should call
Alonso's coming back, so my favourite driver.
Oh yeah, the young driver himself, Fernando Alonso.
Well, I get the memes about the young driver test, but it's not actually called the young driver test anymore. It sort of takes away the meme from it, but I'm just hyped to see Alonso back, man. Like, he is my favourite driver. He's the reason I got into F1. I want to see him jump in that car and win races.
It would be
but
nice
it
to see
probably
him.
ain't going to happen.
It would be
but
good
I want
to
to
see
him mixing it with Vettel in Aston Martin, Hamilton, and Ricciardo. I want to see all of that happening.
That'd be amazing.
Likelihood of that happening is slim, but I want to see it.
I mean, yeah, let's see any races there that. I mean, they've never raced at the Dutch Grand Prix. They never raced at Zandvoort, so you don't know. Anything could happen there. It could be one of those crazy ones that we had like this year.
Yeah, speaking of tracks that we meant to have Zandvoort. We were also meant to have the Vietnam Grand Prix, which never actually happened.
Oh yeah. Of course, yeah.
And I believe I've read that it's never ever going to happen, even though they've constructed the whole circuit and everything. It's not actually going to happen.
Whatever. I thought it was just going to be like not this year. I thought I did read it might not be next year either. But
I think it's been scrapped. So let me just quickly have a look whilst you feel about Vietnam.
I mean, it looked like a very interesting circuit. Watching all the VR drivers do it, obviously they have like the technology, the simulations to make it basically like it's an actual race. Like they could literally just do it virtually. That'd be interesting actually if F1 just went and did that next year. This is some great feeling, by the way. If F1
the Vietnamese Grand Prix has been dropped from the 2021 calendar, raising doubts that the race will ever take place.
Doubts at the moment.
Skimming through this article. It's weird. It looks like they want to host it, but they're not going to.
Huh. Right.
And I think it was quite a big announcement when they announced it that F1 was going to Vietnam.
Yeah, that was pretty big. And because there was like a couple, wasn't there? There was also Miami that they were talking about they wanted to do a Miami street race, which would have been interesting. Have 2 American races.
Yeah, exactly. Although I'm reading here, the removal of the Vietnam Grand Prix which at the time was the first new event introduced by Liberty Media, has been triggered by the arrest on corruption charges of a key official responsible for the race in Hanoi.
Oh.
He alleged appropriation of documents containing state secrets.
Ooh.
That sounds way too political for F1's sake, so maybe that was a good decision to pull out of that.
Maybe we should not talk about politics in F1.
Have we got any... well, I was going to say, have we got any listeners in Vietnam, but probably not. But picking up on your point about politics, F1 just is politics. Everything is political in F1.
Oh, yeah.
More so than any other sport, in my opinion.
It's I don't really know how to comment on it. Like it's F1 is just corrupt to me. It's just a very corrupt thing to me. Like it's just a very rich man's thing, and anything can just be like hush hush with money. And this is definitely not in reference to anything that has happened recently. As a Mazepin, sorry, there's a little cough there.
I don't know what you expect me to say to that, because we've got Mazepin in the script later on.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying anything about it about Mazepin. I don't even know what we're on about. There's no.
It is interesting because F1, with the whole movement at the start of the year, the Black Lives Matter movement came into more popularity, and loads of different things were arising around the world. F1 launched their We Race as One scheme, plastered it over all the cars, all the drivers, all the grandstands, everything you can see on TV, basically. And then they announced that they're going to race in Saudi Arabia. Where is the correlation to that?
Yeah, it's not a great look for them. I'd never really believed them when they did the whole We Race as One anyway, because they had. Do you remember the controversy from I think it was the first race or the second race, when Lewis had to literally call them out and be like, "You've done literally nothing to actually really show your solidarity with it." Like what do they do? I think they made a little passing mention to the movement and that before race, and then that was it. And it wasn't until Lewis said, like, we need to do more, before they put in a video before each race and had them go kneel for like during, not the anthems, but yeah, kneel at before race and everything. They did nothing, I think, for the first two races.
Yeah, it's looking back, it was a pretty bad PR move by F1, but they did bring in that video, didn't they, before the race, and the knee for some drivers. Not every driver took the knee. Yeah,
it was their decision. Like any sport has made it, the athlete's decision for it.
There's been a lot of controversy around. I think it was Millwall, wasn't it? A couple of weeks ago, they were playing QPR or somebody like that, and when players took the knee, they were booing.
You expect nothing less from Millwall. Literally their first game with fans back.
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it? Really, but that's the world we live in, unfortunately. We're getting off topic, talking about Millwall. Dislikes of the 2020 season.
Dislikes, Albon.
No fans.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought just talking in general. Sorry, just talking about in general dislikes.
Blame that on lag over the internet. The worst thing about the 2020 season was no fans.
Yeah,
in my opinion, because the races felt a little bit soulless at times, and the drivers mentioned this several times. You didn't notice it too much on certain circuits, but there were fans at a couple races. There are fans in Russia, Germany, Portugal. There's a few fans, but when you go to tracks like Monza, I felt so bad for Gasly when he won the race, and Sainz with his first or second podium, and Stroll was there as well. Like, that would have been an amazing Italian team winning in Italy. Like, that would have been unbelievable, but there was no fans there, so it was a bit anticlimactic. Yeah,
it was. I think for the most part, during the actual race, you don't really notice it too much. You don't really notice that there's no fans there, but it is until afterwards, or like every once in a while they'll pan during the race over the grandstands, and you hear the crowds cheering and that, and then you do miss. It was missing that, and especially seeing like some of the tracks that just have like in Silverstone, the one main stand is huge, right down the pit straight. It's it is missing that, but you only really properly notice it on the podium celebrations. And like you're saying, yeah, Gasly's would have been huge. That would have been a great huge celebration for him. But yeah, and Perez as well. Actually, two huge celebrations for two first wins for. But yeah, it just missed it, and it did lack that. But at the same time, it didn't really take away the achievement for them. I don't think they wouldn't have looked at it any differently. It's still a huge achievement for them.
That was the best waffle I've ever heard.
Yeah, you're done though.
Was your phone vibrating or something in the background there?
I don't know. What did it sound like it was?
I could hear some vibrations. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Well, we can turn my vibrator off and so, you know.
No, we got to cut that. There's no way I could keep that in. Nah, it's the end of the season. We'll keep it in. No one's listening anyway. Have you got any other dislikes of the 2020 season? I'm trying to think. Apart from Albon.
Other dislike. Who's the other driver I dislike? Bottas, yeah. The fact that they should have just dropped Bottas for Russell for the last couple of races. Or for the last race, actually. Like Hamilton coming back. Instead of
drop Bottas for the last couple of races, yeah. So they'd be running one car.
I honestly think it would have been better. He got 8th place in the race that Lewis wasn't there. Like, just drop him. He's literally one place ahead.
Where did Russell come though?
9th, but that was after
Exactly.
they screwed him over with a pit stop.
Yeah, I
And
know
then
that's
he came
not
back.
how the race went technically. I mean, it was those two dominating, and then the mess up that happens. But
Yeah, I don't care for Bottas anymore. I don't. I don't want him in. Not that I don't want him in the drive. It's just he's not shown himself to be good enough for me for that Merc drive. And then especially when Russell came along and straight away just he didn't get pole, did he? No, Bottas got pole that.
Yeah, like half a tenth. It was ridiculously close.
So close. Like, it shouldn't have been that close. And the fact that it was just really shows that, you know, Bottas isn't that great. That's all I have.
I think, does it take anything away from Hamilton if, let's say, Russell gets the seat in 2022? If Russell jumps in and starts beating Hamilton, what's going to happen?
See, I've not thought about that because I don't think that would happen, to be quite honest. Like, that's not me. I mean, yeah, I'm saying it's not me just being favouritism towards Hamilton.
I doubt it would happen.
I'm always going to back Lewis, but he's shown so many times throughout his whole career that he is just a dominant force. He's one of the best drivers of all time. People don't want to say it. Like, some people don't want to say it because it's like, oh, he's in the best car. Even when he didn't have the best car, he's never gone a season without winning a race. And that's in a time period when McLaren, when he was there, wasn't that great, when they weren't really doing anything, and he was still getting results. He is one of the best drivers, and you can put him with anyone as a teammate, and I'm pretty sure, like, I'm 99% sure he'd beat them.
Even Nico Rosberg.
He still beat him overall in my head.
He did. He did beat him overall. It's just that one DNF.
It was that
royally screwed him over.
It was literally that one race when they were like, press the button, make him retire.
Isn't that what they did to Russell in Bahrain?
Yeah.
I keep reading everybody thinks that they did that.
Thinks it did happen. They have a button that just goes, shut that car down.
It's actually the button when Toto smashes the table. There's a button underneath where he smashes the table, and then it just simultaneously happens.
Who else did that happen to, though? There was someone different in one of the other cards. Oh, I can't remember now. There was... Oh, no, it was Ferrari last year, wasn't it? With
Bahrain, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, Bahrain. Just
Leclerc's first pole, and he was leading, and he could have won the race, but his engine had started to die, and then Hamilton won because he overtook him.
I saw you said started to die, but I didn't hear the quotation marks. Started to die.
He did.
It's definitely not something that Mattia had a thing. That's another thing. Oh, that's a dislike right there. I dislike Mattia. Why? How's he still got the job?
Well, didn't he miss a few races towards the end of the season anyway?
Yeah, and then they got better results.
Yeah, and they start getting podiums.
Literally, first race that he's not there. Vettel gets a podium.
I think it's unfair to say there is no correlation between that whatsoever.
Not at all, no.
There's nothing. It has nothing to do with him.
It's just funny.
It's just that people are like, oh, he wasn't there. They got a podium. Sack him. Well, no, it's not how it works, is it?
I mean, the first race, Charles got second place while he was there. So, and then he got third place for like 3 races later. But we're going to pick up on the one podium that Vettel got, which was the one race that Benotto wasn't there, the first one. So we're going to pick up on that one. That's the one that says that it's all him. It's all his fault.
Yeah.
It's just,
I agree. Yeah. I want to say as well, special shout out to the FIA, to the marshals. I'm talking about Bahrain now.
Oh,
About the crash, probably of the worst crash I think I have ever seen like live on any series ever.
For sure, yeah.
It's close to the Hugh Burr one. That was a really shocking one. Obviously, what happened was terrible as well. But this one was just on another level. I couldn't believe the fire ball that Grosjean was stuck in Bahrain this year.
Yeah, it was just. I remember just seeing it. It's just only going off, and you're like, at first, like you see him going off, and like, oh, there's someone going, and they're crashing into the barrier. You think, that's it. You're going to crash into the barrier. Oh, well, they're just gone again, and then you're waiting to see, oh, it's Grosjean. It's like, oh, the usual. My joke would just be, oh, another Haas just crashing out, haha, that. But then it's just suddenly it explodes, and it was stunned. Honestly, just stunned, because that just doesn't happen in the modern cars. Like that shouldn't happen. It doesn't happen. I haven't seen that happen. I haven't seen something like it since I can't remember what race, who it was, but it's one of the stories that they always tell about Senna, when he literally pulls over the car because he sees the guy crash, and the car just goes up, and he gets him out of the burning wreckage of the car. Like it was reminiscent of that. It was just terrifying.
I remember like you say, when he was going off. Bearing in mind this happens within like 5 seconds, him going off. I was thinking, oh no, it's a Haas. Like there's going to be a lot of memes about it, because I don't actually think the Haas drivers are that bad, and I think next year will prove that. You watch Haas finish last in the constructors. That will prove that those two drivers were actually quite good, especially Magnussen, underrated, in my opinion. He got a podium on his debut in a McLaren that was rubbish.
Yeah, but I can't.
And then never ever got a podium ever again.
I think that kind of says everything for that, considering that was 2012 or something.
That wasn't that early. It was like 2014.
Yeah, 14, I think maybe. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you that they are severely underrated. I'm one of the ones that say that they are terrible. I didn't really appreciate either of the drivers, but I think when, like you're saying, next year you're gonna show how much more respected they should have been. I think that's partly going to be down to the fact that it's going to be two rookie drivers more so than it is that these guys just are better than they are given credit for.
Exactly. Let's hope that there's no more crashes like the Grosjean one, because I know that they're doing a huge investigation, like frame by frame, second by second, what actually happened, what caused the fire, how it split, and like seeing that barrier, the Armco barrier, like that should not split like that. If a barrier like that splits in half with a car wedged in it, like every single circuit in the world that's on the F1 calendar has those barriers.
Yeah,
like that is just ridiculous to me. But
yeah, it looked flimsy. Like it was like when they showed like the pictures of it close up with the car like literally stuck in it. It just looks plastic or something. Like it just such a flimsy barrier. Like how is that meant to stop anything?
And then for the next for the Sakir race, they replaced it and put a proper Tecpo barrier in front of it. So they learnt their lesson. But I understand why there wasn't one there before, because it is on a straight, and that is a very, very odd place to have a crash.
Yeah,
you would never imagine there to be a crash there, but hopefully they'll learn from. We know that they'll learn from that. And definitely. Shout out to the Halo as well. Halo saved his life. I was very critical of the Halo when it came in. I thought it killed a little bit of the DNA of the sport, in my opinion, and it still gets shit. But I think it's there's no way that you can argue against having a Halo in F1.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I was very much against it at first. I thought it looked ugly. I didn't think it was actually. I know they did all their testing and they're the professionals, but I was like, how does that seem? It doesn't seem practical at all. It doesn't seem like it's actually going to do anything. And the one test I kept seeing them talk about was like, oh, if a tyre comes at them at a certain speed, it's going to stop it. It's like, yeah, that's one scenario there. Like, what about anything else? But it's shown time and time again that it works for different sorts of crashes, like this one. Like when Leclerc almost got his head taken off that one race. I can't remember what it was last season.
Spa 2018.
2018. Yeah, it's just,
Stroll as well rolled over in that race, didn't he? In the Sakir. Was it Sakir? No, it was it was Bahrain actually.
Yeah,
that was the Bahrain race. Yeah. He rolled over, and I was like, "How's he going to squeeze out?" But he squeezed out. He got out there. And I don't know if you've seen it, but Grosjean did an extended interview with Martin Brundle on Sky. I haven't watched the whole thing. I only watched a shortened version, but it was really, really like harrowing, borderline, where he was like sitting down chatting to him about the crash, and he was going through exactly what was going through his head, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I stood there and I put my head up to get out of the car. I couldn't get out, so I sat back down. And I was like, oh, I'll just wait for the marshals to come and get me. And I see all this orange, and I'm like, is it the lights? Is it the sunset? No, it's fire. I need to get out. And it's a really fascinating interview. I'd definitely go and listen to it after this.
Yeah, I think I saw that clip. That's the only thing I've seen it as well. Yeah, that you need to watch that because I've heard that it's just such a it's a moving sort of thing because it could have been that from the crash. It looked like that was it. Like I was so surprised to see him, especially like how he got out. Literally just looked fine, and for the most part he was just fine. It just burns on his on his hands and on his ankles or something. For what the crash looked like, it's incredible how he walked away from that.
It's a testament to the FIA that he did. So I think the Halo argument is dead and buried now. It's finished. It's here. It saved multiple lives now. It just needs to probably be developed a little bit more in terms of, I don't know, is it going to be developed a little bit more in terms of how it looks aesthetically for the 2022 season? Maybe a little bit, but
I think for the most part it doesn't actually look that bad anymore. I'm all right with it. Like I look at an old car now without it, and I'm sort of like,
it looks crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like I can't believe I'm saying it, but it doesn't look right. Like it doesn't look right, the old cars without it, because it is such it's proven to work, and it's just a part of it now. It's just a part of the car, so it's like, okay, well I'm used to it.
And you could imagine the absolute shitstorm that would come the FIA's way if they hadn't have put the Halo in 2018, and then a crash like Leclerc's in 2018 at Spa, or this one, the Grosjean one, happened, and someone was to not walk away from it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was all called in because of the what's his name, the Frenchman. I can't remember his name right now.
Bianchi.
That's it. Yeah, came through that. I mean, you think of that crash, it was sort of reminiscent of, Grosjean's is reminiscent of that, because it was literally head not taken off, but the way it was, the crash head first into it. If Bianchi had the halo on the car during his one, what's to say that he doesn't survive? Maybe.
It's weird how the world works, isn't it? Because if everyone wanted to see Bianchi walk away from that, or come out of hospital alive,
yeah.
Sadly, he didn't. But fast forward 6 years, and he's technically saved a Frenchman's life.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I haven't even thought of it like that. Oh man, that's crazy.
It's funny how the world works.
I mean, Leclerc's not French, Monegasque, but it's basically France.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, Grosjean.
Mm.
Leclerc, Grosjean is French. Leclerc's Monegasque, but he speaks French.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like as in it saved not technically two Frenchmen, but saved a Frenchman and Grosjean,
two French-speaking
and then
men.
Yeah, we'll say that. Just getting off topic from me. Saved lives.
Here we are off topic. There have been a lot of driver moves for next season. There's a whole shitstorm that went down with the seat at Red Bull, because that was like the one seat that was laying about, the one that everybody wanted, or if you didn't have a drive, you wanted that. There was talk of Hülkenberg, there was talk of Perez, there was talk of Albon keeping it. Maybe Gasly was going to go back there. Was Yuki Tsunoda going to be thrown in the mix? What about Kvyat? Was he going to go back there? No, actually, no one thought about Kvyat.
No one thought about Kvyat. Not once. He was.
But
not given a mention until now.
There were so many names that were flying about, and seats were getting picked off. And obviously, when Schumacher were announced and his teammate got announced, there was the seats were disappearing, and there was this one seat at Red Bull. The big news for me of the season, this was after Perez won in Sakir. For him to take that seat from Albon, and Albon to be dropped down to a test driver, is one of the most audacious driver moves in F1 history.
It's a huge move, yeah, to just drop a guy like, yeah, they brought Albon in from last year because they were like, oh, he's a young driver, he was getting okay results with the AlphaTauri or was it the Toro Rosso still at the time. And that's why they made the swap, and for the future, and then just to suddenly not just like demote him down to a secondary drive, but to literally drop him completely, that he's not going to be racing at all next year, is huge. But to me, and it's not just because of my feelings towards Albon, it's the right move because Perez is too good to not be in the sport, which was what it was looking like it was going to be for a while. And he deserves to also be in a car that can compete. Like he's good enough to be up there, to be in the title contention. And so I think it's the best move for Red Bull. It's a great move for him as a driver, great move for the team, even though it could bring back the whole old Max of him actually having a competing teammate is going to make him make more mistakes again. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting thing to see as well there, I think.
It's a win-win for everybody. Even for Albon, you can see the positives. He's still on the books at Red Bull. He will definitely be back in the next 2 years, either in AlphaTauri or at Red Bull or elsewhere. He could be loaned out like Sainz was when he was part of the Red Bull team. There's so many options for Albon. He could go, like if Perez has a shocker, which could happen. I don't think it will, but it could happen. If he has an absolute shocker and does worse than Albon will be straight back in for 2022. Regulation change, everything's up for grabs. And Perez, that Red Bull can't lose anything by putting Perez in for 1 year, the last year before the regulation change. They'll chuck him in for a year if he's on pace with Max straight away and contesting him better than Gasly and Albon were, which I don't know if that's going to happen. I want it to, but I don't know. I just think Max is too... The car is just set up so much in favour of Max. Like, as we've seen over the last few years, the only other guy to beat Max consistently or challenge him consistently was Ricciardo.
Yeah, my boy Danny. That's the thing. That's what I was saying about Max having a teammate that can actually compete. When he had Danny Rick as his teammate, it was forcing him into mistakes. I mean, you recall Baku, was it 2016 or 17, when he just 18. Went into the back and 8. Was it 18?
It was 18. Yep.
God,
great race.
Great race. I get my dates all wrong though. But it's just he used to have the problem with, if someone was competing with him, his own teammate mainly, he just would lose his head and he would just either retire himself because he'd just pushing too hard and the car would go, or he'd crash into his teammate, or he'd just do something. And it'll be interesting to see someone like Perez, who was a good driver, if the car is set up so that it's equal and he can challenge Max as much as Danny used to be able to, then let's see if Max has grown up as a driver. I'm a lot more sold on Max now than I was 2 years ago. He has grown up a lot, but for me now, it's going to definitely see if he can be a championship caliber to have a good teammate again and not lose his head in situations.
Let us know in the comments, would you have chose Albon or Perez? I think 90% of people would have chose Perez, but Albon didn't have a bad year by any means. He got a couple podiums. He did okay. It was just missing that final, where he was just on the level with on the pace with Max. That would have got him the seat. But again, he hasn't lost massively. He's lost a year. He's going to have a hiatus like Esteban Ocon had. He's come back and now he's gonna be in F1 for the foreseeable future. So it's all up to play for Albon. Don't rule him out in the coming years. Now, the first driver move of the year was announced very, very early on. Carlos Sainz replaces Sebastian Vettel at Ferrari. Bearing in mind, this was before we'd even seen a race at this point.
Oh, yeah, that was even before the start of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was before the start of the season. This is unbelievable that Vettel is being dropped. And the way that was handled was a little bit distasteful, in my opinion, by Ferrari.
Yeah,
but
that wasn't great.
It's just an amazing move for Carlos Sainz. You look at it at that point before the season's even started, you haven't seen how bad Ferrari are in 2020. Ferrari were at the time basically the top team with Mercedes level pegging. Can you see Sainz fighting next year, or is he going to have to wait until 2022 to really be able to take advantage?
I have no clue. I mean, I had
Neither do
I. No idea what to say with Ferrari. There was no indication that they were going to be this off the pace this year. Testing looked like it went alright for them, like usual. It looked like they had the best car. Obviously, there's always the talks of Mercedes doing their sandbagging. Everyone always jokes about that. But yeah, Ferrari looked like they had a good car to then properly compete. Same driver lineup, not just a former world champion, but 4-time world champion. Charles Leclerc, who's a great driver, had that good season last year. So it's maybe they could give a proper challenge to Mercedes, and then go out there and finish. Where did they even finish in the constructors? They finished 6th, below Renault, the pink Mercedes, and McLaren. It was a crazy season, so I can't think at all if they're gonna if they can improve and get back up to competing with Mercedes and Red Bull for next season, or if they're just going to be more of the same next year. So it could end up being, a good move for Sainz, that this was just a one-off for them, or it could just be that he's going to have to wait, just kind of go through this year, see what he can do, and then wait for the rule change.
It's such a tricky one, isn't it? Because you've got Charles Leclerc that convincingly beat Vettel this year. I think that Vettel going to Aston Martin as well next year, which is Racing Point. If you're new to F1 and the name changes are confusing, they confuse everybody. Welcome to F1. But it's gonna be interesting. Leclerc and Sainz is a very powerful lineup. That should not be underestimated. And with Sainz leaving McLaren, that opens up a McLaren seat. Ricciardo has swooped in, sealed the deal to McLaren. He will be partnering Lando Norris in what could be the funniest F1 partnership of all time, on and off track.
It's gonna be hilarious. Everything that's gonna come out, they literally joke around anyway. You think of that the pre-race or post-race with when they just set Lewis in the middle and Lando's literally there crying with laughter.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, the two of them together, and that's all different teams. Them literally in the same team garage. It's gonna be the funniest thing. I love it. It's gonna be amazing.
I don't know if you've seen it, I'll send you a link to it, but I thought Carlos and Lando were hilarious together, and they did this piece on Sky F1 where they were driving a Renault in Barcelona, and they did loads of different things, but one of these challenges where they had to fill up a bowl of milk, and the driver had to drive slalom through cones and do a brake test and stuff. And the guy with the most milk left at the end of the game wins. And it was a brand new Renault that they'd been given, and it was honestly one of the funniest things. And Johnny Herbert was in the back. I'll send you a link because I haven't laughed that much at a Sky F1 piece ever. It was hilarious.
That sounds jokes.
In fact, I'll do that right now because I'll forget. But yeah, Ricciardo to McLaren, which apparently he wanted to go to McLaren before he chose Renault. I was hearing. Whether that's true or not, we don't know.
I mean, it's a team with a lot of history. I think it started technically McLaren. Well, it started with Bruce McLaren, who was an Aussie, I think. So, yeah, for him, I think it's probably not going home because they're a British team, but it's I think for him, going to McLaren would have been a big thing, and he's getting that now, and it's a good car.
We mentioned Kvyat as well. Kvyat has been dropped we think completely. There's not too much information about what his contractual status is for next year, but it looks like he has gone from AlphaTauri and the Red Bull system, and Yuki Tsunoda from Formula 2 has come in. And I have to admit, I only watched a couple of Formula 2 races last year, but my God, they were absolutely unbelievable. The few that I watched, it was honestly one of the best seasons of F2. If you haven't watched F2, people who are listening, goodness me, especially the Sakir race, the season finale, that was honestly one of the best races I've seen.
Oh yeah,
and the sprint race, the feature race, they are both unbelievable. Some interesting driving from Mazepin. So it was great racing though, but it was amazing. But that happened.
We don't have to talk about him. I haven't watched. I don't know. I think I might have had it on in the background of doing something else, but I can't say I actually sat down and watched any races. But I follow them on Instagram and that. I keep up with everything that happened. I know that last race there was some mad things that happened. I can't remember what exactly, but Formula 2 is a good watch. It has some good things happening. You get some good races in it. I know that much, and I know that Tsunoda is a good driver, and it's going to be I think it's a sound move for them, and they're only improving with putting him next to Gasly as well, and it's another team with a young driver lineup for next year.
Great branding as well with a Honda, Japanese manufacturer, with their last season in F1, which is a bit of a shock in my opinion for them to pull out of the sport after only coming back in 2015. For them to pull out 5 years later is pretty crazy. Yeah. But they're going to have a Japanese driver for the one season that they've got left. That also, with Honda pulling out, which was a huge thing for Red Bull, that leaves Red Bull in a bit of a crappy situation. do they have to go back to Renault with the tail between their legs and be like, I'm sorry that we said your engines were absolutely terrible in every single way, but can we buy some more? I just can't wait for Drive to Survive. That scene with Cyril and Christian, I'm here for it with my popcorn.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's gonna be. Oh, from there, the whole breakup scene in season 2, that was a great watch to see. Yeah, now if he's gonna kind of go back, be like, hey, how you doing? Everything I said before, I was just joking. I was just banter for Netflix.
Just playing.
I was just having some fun. For the cameras, they're just right there. I heard Gunter does it too. He just puts on. He doesn't actually swear that much. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does.
He definitely does.
He probably tones it down actually.
The door scene in the Netflix series was just
that's iconic.
the most iconic F1 thing ever.
Everything from all the years of F1, nothing has had more of an impact than the door scene and Magnussen slamming a door.
Speaking of Haas, we're gonna go into it. Mazepin and Schumacher. Firstly, Mick Schumacher, amazing. He won the Formula 2 championship. Unbelievable season for him. It was really close with Callum Ilott, 2 Ferrari junior drivers. It was amazing battle between them right up until the very last lap of the final race in Sakir. Schumacher back in F1, that's a headline.
Oh yeah, Schumacher back in, especially with it still being a Ferrari, not obviously a Ferrari, but it's a Ferrari powered car. It seems right. It not always seemed like it, but from when he made the proper come up and started hearing in the media in Formula 3 that there's a Schumacher back, it's sort of like, okay, how long is it going to be until he gets to Formula 1, if he gets there, and for him to be as good as he has been, to finally be there so quickly, it just seems right.
It's amazing that it's only been 8 years, not even a full 8, full 8 seasons since, 7 or 8 seasons since Schumacher Senior had left. It's just there's just a pleasing circularity to it all, and it's just such a shame that Michael is not there to see Mick in F1. It is a tragedy, really, in terms of sport.
Yeah, I mean, I can only hope that he's at least in a good enough state to be seeing his son doing it. But it's just a shame that it's not going to be able to have the same effect as if it was, Michael Schumacher being able to properly celebrate his son, especially if he went on to be a world champion as well. It would have been such a... I could see it now, like a Sky Sports or just some sort of segment where it could be Michael sitting down with Mick and just going over his iconic races with his son. But
that'd be great TV.
Yeah, that would just be proper tear-jerking sort of stuff. But it's a shame that we're deprived of that.
I met Mick last year. It's crazy that he's only 6 months older than me and about 4 inches shorter than me as well, but that's regardless. Perfect racing driver size. But he's just, he was just a really nice guy. People think, when I hear people say, oh yeah, he's just a great guy, people think, oh yeah, well, you would say that. But he was genuinely a really lovely guy, and we had a really great chat, actually. But yeah, I'm just happy to see that he's got there on talent and not just through his name. Nobody can sit there and say, well, he's there because his dad was called Michael. Not the case. He's F2 champion. He's earned his drive in Formula 1.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah. As
for his teammates, there's been a lot of controversy. If you haven't seen, or if you're new to F1, there's been a huge amount of controversy. And I want to provide a little bit of backstory to this. Haas have always struggled with finances. When Gene Haas put his name and his team into Formula 1 in 2016, they basically have the smallest amount of money, excluding Williams, on the grid available. Haas are very big in America with their manufacturing, racing in NASCAR, etc., etc. They come to F1 and they haven't got bags of money. So they stuck with Magnussen and Grosjean for five or 6 years, and now they've got to a point where they've released Magnussen and Grosjean in the same season, and they've picked Mick Schumacher from the Ferrari Driver Academy. Obviously, Haas being powered by Ferrari, that's a simple decision to make. You've got one seat secured there. Second seat, as we've seen in recent years with the likes of Lance Stroll, Latifi, even Sergio Perez has brought a lot of money to teams. How I don't see that. I can see the logic in bringing in Mazepin. This was before the whole controversy. Mazepin in F2, he's won a couple of races. I think he's won a couple of races. He's done reasonably okay. He's not the greatest driver in the world, but he's done okay. And he's also the son of a Russian billionaire who's about 8 times as more rich than Lawrence Stroll, by the way. But he's now come in, and it's great. He's been promoted to F1. It's amazing for him. And then he makes a simply ridiculous mistake. And if you haven't seen it, it's pretty disturbing video. But he posted a story of him sexually assaulting a drunk girl in a car on his Instagram story before deleting it and then issuing an apology, and then she's come out and apologized. What is your thoughts on the whole Nikita Mazepin situation? Because it is very blurry and muddy at the moment.
I mean, the whole reason why I'm keeping quiet and nothing at all is I'm very against him being there. Literally, the only reason why Callum Ilott hasn't got the seat is because Mazepin has money. He's paid off. He's 100% to me paid off everything, like everyone at Haas. The fact that there's not even going to be an outside investigation into that because their internal one is enough. Like, that's what the FIA are probably saying. They're probably just like, oh no, they've done an internal investigation into it. That'll be fine. No, that's ridiculous to me. For this guy's not just this situation. He's had a lot of controversy apparently in the past. For him to still have the drive, it's ridiculous. And Haas know that they're wrong because anything they post anywhere, there's nothing about him. It's all about Mick, and all the comments are just about, get Mazepin out. How are they doing this? And it is just because there's been bags of money just handed to them, to the FIA, just to kind of hush with it, just keep it quiet and let them keep the seat. That's all I really have to say about it. I'm very against it.
There's been a lot of social media. What's the correct way to say this? A lot of uproar from people online about Mazepin's entry into the sport, and we've mentioned earlier on about the We Racers One initiative, and then they've sort of shot themselves in the foot by going to places like Saudi Arabia next year, or was it next year or the year after?
Next year, they start from next year.
Yeah. This has not helped Formula One, but is it a Formula One problem?
It's Formula One have had a lot of different controversies throughout the past. There's always been something happening, and I don't know. It's just it's something that it feels like anything that can happen in the sport, anything that can happen as a controversy, can just be kept quiet if they pay enough money, and it's something like just money seems to be the big thing around it. I don't really know what else to say. I don't understand how there's not been any proper investigation into the way that the sport is run. Because you look at how Bernie also ran the sport. Again, it was all about money for him. Anything that happened, it was a money decision. Anything that happens for this sport is a money decision. It's not about what's in the best interest for the public or for to make the best look for them. It's about money for them. And I can't stand with it. I can't stand by it. Even though I love it, I love Formula One, I just don't. I don't understand how it can be run like that.
It seems to be a problem that motorsport in whole has, because it's so just from a perspective of getting into it. You think like you can just get into it and just drive. The amount of money we're talking about just to go karting, like in not even internationally, just nationally, we're talking tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds. The whole system from top to bottom is so inaccessible. Not just in terms of participation, if you want to be a driver or if you want to be a spectator. Tickets in recent years have come down, but it's still very expensive. Merchandise is still very expensive, in my opinion. But
yeah,
hopefully it's going to change. But I don't see anything happening with Mazepin. It's going to stay the same. I think people need to make peace with it. Mazepin will be there for next year and the year after, and probably several years to come, unless Haas pull out the sport. But this has really hurt Haas in terms of their image.
I can't say that I'm gonna stand with it. I'm gonna get used to it. I will not acknowledge him at all. I'm saying that now. I will not acknowledge him as a driver. There are 19 drivers on the grid for me. He is not there. He is not a thing until Haas get their shit together and put Eilert in the seat that he deserves, because he's literally, as he's part of the team, he's with them. I think as a reserve driver, he's with the Ferrari Driver Academy. Like I said, that's the only reason why he's not in that seat is because he didn't pay enough money to be there. So until they get their stuff together, I'm going to hold Haas in bad regard, and I hate to say that because I like Mick as well, and I think that was a great move, but I'm going to hold them in bad regard for it. But yeah, I'm hoping that's just for 1 year. It's going to be like that, and he's going to end up being terrible, and they just replace him.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the whole Mazepin saga? Should he be here? Should he not? What's going to happen? Let us know, because there's some good discussion to have about this, and it's a really tricky one. If you're Gene Haas and you're seeing, I don't know how much money they've paid, but it's going to be $50 million plus a year, and you're tight on budget, and you don't want people to lose their jobs. You've got several hundred people working for Haas, not only in the race team but in the factory and in America and in the UK. Do you want those people to lose their jobs, or do you want them to have their jobs and take a bit of a hit in terms of PR? Or do you thinking this gets you some headlines and this is good? No one really knows. But the bottom line is, if Mazepin hadn't have done this, what he did, would there have been this much uproar? I don't think there would have been, because it's been quite normalised recently, where your dad just comes in and pays a shitload of money. You're suddenly in there, and we've seen it with Stroll, and I give credit to Stroll because Stroll is a very good driver. It seems to be normalised.
Very good. Ooh. Very good's a big.
Lawrence Stroll has bought the team. He's also got his son driving for him. Obviously, But Stroll has got poles. Stroll has won in every junior formula that he's ever done. Stroll has got pole in F1. Stroll has got a podium in his debut season. He's got a couple podiums in the last couple of years. He's a good driver.
He's a good driver. Yeah, I've come around to saying that as well. He is a good driver, but he's also not really done a whole lot for me to say that I can see him being in the sport for another 10 years and have a very successful run. I can see him, like, if it weren't for his dad's money, he would have been out of the sport from last year, because obviously there was not last year. This year would have been, I can't remember the whole thing with it. I think it would have been this year, because I would have taken Vettel and then they would have kept Perez if it was based on driver performance rather than who owns the team. He's a good enough driver, but I'm not 100% sold on him being around and really competing ever. That's my opinion on him.
Let's hope that Sebastian Vettel, by the way, has a great year with Aston Martin. Criminally underrated, and he got a lot of crap this year, and he got beat fair and square by Leclerc, and he knows that more than anybody.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of memes about him, but I think he'll do well. I hope he does very well.
Not same, yeah, definitely. This year's was for him. It seemed that it was a lot of the time that the team were out to get him, but you just start feeling bad for him at some point. At first it was funny to me because I don't hate him. I never hated him. It was just always, obviously he won his 4 championships and then was the rival against Lewis for a long time. It was just always, if you started seeing him doing bad, I would laugh. But then it got to a point where it's like, he doesn't deserve this. He is a 4-time world champion, and he earned those championships. And so for him to be having how he was treated this year it was tough.
I think we're approaching the end, and we have got a couple more things to talk about. You've titled this UBF1 Awards. We haven't got any trophies or anything like that because we're running on a budget here, guys.
It's the mental awards.
We'll call it virtual because people can imagine. Just imagine a big fat trophy that costs like £3. Your driver of the year. It's pretty straightforward for you, isn't it?
It's a very straightforward decision. My driver of the year every year since 2007. It's the boy Lewis Hamilton.
2007.
Since 2007. Yeah, I'll say it now. So, every year. Name me someone else who has won every single race that he's ever raced in. Not every race. Jesus Christ, that was incredible. Every single race he's ever raced in.
The bias got a bit too unbiased there.
Good Lord, that would be amazing. That's got just goated for sure. No, every at least one race every season he's been in. Like Lewis, he's just absolutely, like, on paper again this year. Like we're saying, it looks like he's dominated. It hasn't been as straightforward as that, but he's still won over. I mean, he won like 3/4 of the races this year. Like he's just easily the best driver on the grid. every year. Not every year. That's me being biased again. But this year and for the last 5 years, he's been the best. And I don't.
What about 2016?
He was still the best. Still the best. Even you said it before. Not on here. You said it before. It was that one DNF.
Yeah, that one DNF. Yeah. Now maybe I did say it on it. Yeah, well, he was the better driver.
Yeah.
But Rosberg delivered. So fair play.
Yeah, he was more consistent. I'll give him that. I'll give him.
I've gone slightly different for my driver of the year. Well, I know Hamilton is the obvious choice, so I just wanted to play a little bit of devil's advocate. I've gone for a popular choice, I feel. I've gone for Sergio Perez, just because this year has probably been his greatest year in his career, and he was dropped in favour of someone who has had an absolutely abysmal year. It's on paper, you just think, well, if someone was looking at F1 in terms of, like, they've joined the sport as a fan this year and they've seen Vettel doing awfully, and they're looking at Perez who's consistently getting top 4, top 3, like, it doesn't make any sense, does it? But for him to get a race win, that was like unbelievable. This is like one of the top 5, top 10 moments in my personal opinion of F1 in the last 20-30 years.
I think it's a good pick. When you said about you're going with Perez, I was like, okay, I can back that. It was, like you said, it's a popular pick, but he's popular for a reason. He's a good driver. He's along with like Hulkenberg for a couple of years. He's the best of the rest of the pack, really. Obviously, you get the front guys who are like in the Mercs, Lewis, Max, and that. But it's always been Perez has just been there.
The guys at the front, Lewis and Max.
That's
literally.
It's literally just them two.
That's where the club. It's a very exclusive club, and it stops there.
It's them two, especially this year. It's them two. Before there was like maybe 6 of them. No, it's just 2 this year. So Perez getting your driver of the year. I can agree with it. I can agree with that.
It's, again, we've spoken about it's Red Bull time, but I'm really looking forward to next year. Your race of the season. We've listed, people can't see this, but we've listed pretty much every single race apart from about 3. So we've got, for you have listed Tuscany, Austrian, British, I think that's both of them, Turkey. I've gone for Monza, Sakir, Turkey, Portimao and Tuscany. So very similar choices there. For me, I think Monza and Turkey are right at the very top.
For me...
and Sakir as well. It's just ridiculous.
Sakir was good for just the whole, it was literally 3 surprising podium finishes with Perez, Stroll third, and then Stroll third and Ocon second. And that was a great
Russell
podium there.
Replacing Hamilton.
Oh yeah, fantastic! Yeah, that was just a whole crazy stories coming out of that. But for me though, the Austrians, the very first race of the season, that being sort of like the poster for, Formula One coming back, and then that's what we had. Lando's last lap heroics was just incredible. British, I'd specifically the first race with mainly just the Lewis last lap, just his tyre just going. That was just
and Bottas as well.
Oh, your Bottas is going as well, but I don't care for Bottas, so it doesn't matter to me.
Poor Valtteri.
But yeah, for me, it's the Tuscany Grand Prix. That was just it was just a fun race to watch, especially that restart. Just the whole calamity of that was just amazing. But it was
Grosjean on the radio after Sainz and Latifi and Magnussen all getting caught up. He was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen," and then 3 months later, he's in the worst crash, arguably in F1 history.
Yeah,
funny how the world works, isn't it?
I mean, funny is a word you could use. Probably not the right one, George.
Probably not the right. Well, you know what I mean. Funny as in terms of it being ridiculous.
Yeah, that's Formula One. It's ridiculous at times, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, no, it was just a great race. I enjoyed it. First time seeing it at that track before, Formula One at that track, and it was. I hope that's like we're bringing back to what we said earlier. I hope that the Tuscany Grand Prix is that to be confirmed track that we get next year.
Side note: shout out to the dogs that we saw throughout this F1 season.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
There's
dogs.
a lot of dog moments, like 2 or 3 different moments of where stray dogs just appeared. I think Turkey was one. Maybe Portimao was another one, and Sakir as well.
There's a couple funny moments that happened. I can't remember them now. But yeah, the dogs just coming along. What do they say? What do they call it? There's some joke with it being one of the teams or something. Could be or one of the drivers could be renamed to Bark something like something.
Oh
Bark
yeah,
or
no,
like,
I'm trying to find it because there was a loads of memes coming out about dogs woofing and like I can't find them off the top of my head, but
wasn't it like Formula Woof or something?
something like that. Yeah, I'm
enjoy
trying to find it.
Yeah, that was always funny just seeing that. It's always funny when you get those sort of bloopers like first name, last name. That's my driver of the year.
That was a classic.
Does anything like that, any screw up from F1 is we love it as fans.
Actually, do you know what? We were very critical last year about directors cutting to the crowd. Well, that was one of the biggest and best things about this season. Having no crowd means that they can't cut to the crowd halfway through an overtake.
Yeah, sometimes you get that when they just do a really random cut. No, this year it was just them stupidly watching some battle that didn't mean anything at random times when there was actually something interesting going on. They're
Races
usual,
like Russia, where they're replaying the start like 15 times. You know it's a bad race when they're replaying the start.
Yeah, literally. Oh. Yeah, it's been a good year with some random moments in it. And I've enjoyed it.
I want to add as well, this is probably the most coveted award that we're going to give away.
I know what you're about to say.
Rookie of the Year 2020.
The big rookie. Oh my god, it was tough competition.
Technically not the only rookie, but a rookie nonetheless. It's got to go to Latifi, who absolutely smashed it out of the park, who finished in 20th in the standings. I'm not quite sure. Maybe
technically 23. But actually, no, that's not even true. He finished 21st because Nico got points. Nico came second, 15th in there.
Fittipaldi and Aitken didn't get any points, did they?
Yeah, Latifi in the whole season didn't get any points. Same amount as drivers who had, Jack with one race, Fittipaldi with two. But no, still absolutely dominated the rookie field. Latifi this year, he was just in a league
of his own, quite literally.
I was about to say that, league of his own this year for the rookies. Just a unanimous decision for my rookie of the year.
Congratulations, Nicholas. We hope you're doing well. We know you're listening. Most improved was a tricky one because there's been a couple of names we threw in there. Do you want to talk through the most improved?
I mean, we put down Giovinazzi, who, I thought when he first came in, I wasn't huge on him, I wasn't sold on him. I just saw him as a test driver and just sort of like their only choice at the time for a drive, just giving a guy a seat just because they didn't know who else to put there. But he's grown into the seat. He's done decent enough. I think, how many points did he get? I mean, he got the same amount of points as Kimi this year. They both got 4, not a great season from not AlphaTauri, from the Alfa Romeos, but they're not a fantastic car. They're the third team in the Ferrari rankings. He's been decent enough. Like he's not been a terrible driver. He's just sort of there at times, but he does enough.
He's beaten Kimi more often than not in qualifying, I'm pretty sure.
I think so. Yeah, I think he won the qualifying battle. I think from them. He retired more than looking at it now. Like I thought that was one thing he had, but no, Kimi only had the one retirement to his 3. But it still he had decent results. Like Kimi had just the 2 wins, 2 races where he finished in the points. 2 wins. Jesus, if Kimi had the 2 wins.
It would have been the greatest season ever if we'd just done 2 Kimi wins. Jesus.
I would have loved that if Kimi had gotten even a podium at some point. But no, Kimi only had 2 races where he finished in the points, whilst Antonio had 3. So it's for me, he's most improved. He was a good driver this year.
Also, I've thrown in Stroll there, but maybe not controversial as controversial as it would have been perhaps 2 or 3 years ago. But for him to get a pole in Turkey, that was just an unbelievable lap, and he had a great season. He had in Monza, he could have won that race. He was starting alongside Hamilton. He was in front of Gasly at the safety car restart after the whole pit lane being closed. He was there. He was technically in first behind Hamilton after Hamilton asked to go in the pits. Great race, by the way. If you haven't watched it, what are you doing? Watch the highlights.
That was a fantastic
but
race.
He could have won that race, and he still finished on the podium. He got a pole in Turkey. He got another podium somewhere else. Amazing.
Yes, okay, yeah. It was. He had a good year as well. I mean, in the past, he's just had I think, he's been in 3 years now. 3 years in the sport, and he's finished on a podium at least once each year.
This is fourth season.
4th season now. Okay, he might miss 1 year then, but yeah, he's. I got to give it to him. Yeah, I do still think it's Daddy's money that's got him in the sport, and that is the facts there. That is literally the facts. He is decent enough to still be there. And yeah, I'd say, yeah, he can be in for a shout for that most improved.
And that, ladies and gents, is all we have actually on the document. So this is pure waffle now. But if you've made it to the end, let us know who was your driver of the year, favourite race, and your favourite meme moment from the season. Because that was the 2020 season. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Johnny, for joining me.
Thank you for joining me. This is my podcast. I run this.
We'll keep that in. I'm not going to cut anything out. We will hopefully be back in March for... Well, there's pre-season testing, isn't there, in February. That'll be the next track action. The cars will be coming out in February time. Then it'll be the testing in February time. And then hopefully we'll be going to Australia and actually having a race this time in March. Second, third week of March, usually.
Yeah, around then this year.
I was expecting more of a punchline there, but we'll brush over that.
I don't really have anything. I'm excited to go back to Australia. I quite like Australia as a track, but yeah, no, that's all I really had on it.
It'll be a Mercedes 1-2 and finishing 85 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, but it'll just be great to get back.
No, you know what? I'm going to call it now. Something's going to happen. COVID's still going to be around by then. Someone's going to have to pull out. Nico's going to come along. And he's going to get away. He's going to get, not Nico Rosberg. You Nico Rosberg, like he's going to come back. No, he's solidly retired. I think there's more of a chance of Mika Hakkinen coming out and coming from his sabbatical than Nico Rosberg coming back. But
and on that note, we're going to end it. Thank you for listening, guys. We apologise again for the delay that we've had in the last few races. We were just super busy, but we've come back for this episode. We will hopefully see you next year, COVID dependent, and if we're still around, we'll still be doing this. But hopefully you've enjoyed the season as much as we have. Have a great new year, and hope you've had a great Christmas, and we will see you in 2021.